17th season of Bass Talk Live with your hosts, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pingrack. BTL is brought to you by Reynolds, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Yamagatsu, The Bass Tank, and Denali Rods. BTL coming at you. Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where Matt and I are going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, great show today. A guy from the past, Mr. Jeff Reynolds, former Elite Series pro, going to be joining us, talking a little bit about Lake Ray Roberts and see what he's got going on since his Elite Series days. And I think he's getting back into it a little bit, man.
Boy, kind of. He still continued to fish a lot of tournaments.
Well, actually, he took some time off.
Yeah,
he did. He just quit for a little while.
Well, in the Southwestern Division of the Toyota Series this year, he finished second in the Angler of the Year, won almost $20,000.
This is correct, and he's dominant on Lake Texoma too.
Yeah, and he's made the Toyota Championship for the past 3 consecutive years. But yeah, he took off from the Elite Series.
Yeah, took some time off,
but he's still fishing. He's one of those team tournament guys.
Well, now he is.
Yeah.
But he took some time off, is what I'm saying. I mean, he was totally out of the game. Done.
Yeah.
Finished. All right? And then he gradually phased himself back in the game. And there are very, very few people when it comes to Southern Oklahoma that is more dominant on the bodies of water that are in Southern Oklahoma, including Lake Texoma, than Jeff Reynolds.
He's the Texoma guy. I remember the only year I fished the BFLs, right? That regional was down at Texoma. And I had one of the co-anglers one day who I guess had Reynolds the previous day.
Yeah.
And I mean, Reynolds is the man down there, right? And he said, dude, he goes, that was wild. He goes, we'd be running and there'd be nothing. And he'd stop on a random bank and he'd catch a 4-pounder. And I'd be like, what? He'd be like, what was that? And Reynolds would be like, oh, there's a stump down there. Yeah. And then they'd run another 10 miles and they'd stop on a no-nothing bank and he'd catch a 3-pound. He goes, it was absolutely insane. He's like, I don't know how anyone competes with him on there. And then he won the tournament and proved that no one can compete with him on there.
Yeah, he's really good.
Where else is he good at? He, Murray? He fishes Murray.
A little bit, yeah. He's pretty decent there.
Texoma.
McGee Creek.
All those. There's a lot of really cool big bass lakes around that kind of border area that I think don't get a lot of publicity, but that are big and have fish. He's good on Eufaula too, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Doing a lot of stuff over the past years with Wade Middleton, who has the outdoor fishing and hunting show on all of the outdoor channels. What is it? The World Fishing Network. What else is there? Pursuit.
Is WFN still
outdoor
there?
channel? Yeah, it's still there.
Fox Sports Southwest.
He does some on that. Yeah,
I don't know.
He's all over the place. So, going to catch up with Jeff here in about 10-15 minutes. A couple of announcements. Next week, it's going to be a very, very cool week. I got it wrapped up yesterday. I have mentioned on previous shows that right down the street, there is a brand new, the first franchise in the nation.
Oh, really?
Is here in Moore, Oklahoma. I'm talking about Black Rifle Coffee. And on next Wednesday, 1 week from tomorrow, James Watson Worldwide is going to be at that location along with Matt and myself. And we are going to be broadcasting live from the Black Rifle Coffee retail location here in Moore, Oklahoma. We want to invite as many BTL listeners here in the metro Oklahoma City. Heck, if you're in Tulsa, come on down, hang out with Mr. Watson, and we will be doing the show next Wednesday from the Black Rifle Coffee location here in Moore, Oklahoma. So very, very excited about that.
That's cool. A mile and a half from the studio.
Yeah.
The first one. I didn't know that.
First franchise.
How long has it been since you had the mobile studio packed up?
Well, I've been using it at school.
So you've got it dialed in.
Yeah. It's packed and ready to go, and we'll go set up. Really cool. I went up there yesterday, checked it out. We're probably, depending on the weather, probably going to be on the patio.
Oh, very cool.
It's got a little sunshade and really, really cool
They
place.
support bass fishing at pretty much every different platform and every different level, from anglers to leagues to different organizations. They're all over the board.
Yeah, they're going to have a booth at the Bassmaster Classic, so they got a really cool promotion, and we'll talk more about that on the show next Wednesday. But James Watson in person, make sure you come by. We'll have more info on it on Monday and Tuesday of next week when we prepare for our first on-location show that we do in 2021. All right, the other thing that I want to let everybody know, the odds show is tomorrow. The odds are complete, and I've already received several emails from people that said, hey, Mark, is this a reality? Could this really happen? And I'm going to dive into some of the challenges besides the legality stuff in each state and everything. I'm just going to wash that aside because there are some enormous hurdles that would need to be overcome to even make this reality. But I got an email from Matt in Alabama, listens all the time, and he brought up some great points. So when we do the odds show tomorrow, we're going to get into the reality of actually betting on professional bass fishing. And he brought up some great points, and I kind of countered it to the potential of, I classified it as insider trading, because sometimes it's really what it would be. It would be insider trading if guys had inside information and they actually had people that was placing bets based upon the insider information that they would have from each of these tournaments.
Interesting.
That's one of the challenges that definitely would have to be overcome. All right. The last thing I want to say.
I got one more thing on the odds thing.
Yes.
So I did have a listener that sent in a prop bet and was like, hey, I know you're doing prop bets. I feel
what
like
was it?
This would be how many BPT anglers are at the expo. Which was a good prop.
How are you going to get verification of that, though?
Well, I mean, you could walk around and just get a feel for it. Anyway.
I mean, somebody could
but
come
that
in
led
for an
up.
hour.
That led up.
Out of
as
here.
far as, we usually do, anglers that shed a tear on the classic stage, number of 8-pound bass, how many times Mercer says giant, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If an angler, how many anglers wear a cowboy hat on stage.
Well, they can't do that, but.
Was that Reynolds who did that?
It was Jeff Reynolds, and we'll get into that.
Yeah. Was that a deal where
2005.
Tripp was like, no?
I think so.
We'll have to ask him about that. But anyway, if you're a listener
Pittsburgh.
and you have something that you feel like should be a prop bet that I could include in tomorrow's show, just shoot me a DM on my Instagram at Matt Pangrac. And if I feel like it's a worthy prop bet, I'll throw it in on that.
I like the prop bets. You come up with some really creative stuff. So Matt will have the prop bets tomorrow. I will have the odds, and we will go from there. All right, the last thing, and then we're going to take a break, come back with Jeff Reynolds. Dude, this is painful. Painful. And there's a lot of people out there that know exactly what I'm talking about if you're a homeowner. There is an expense that I dread, and I knew it was going to happen, and finally it happened over the weekend.
AC?
No, I just got that replaced.
I know.
I will say this. No, it's under warranty and everything.
That you dread?
It lasted 18 years. Which I want to know if anybody out there has had this piece of equipment. If you're a homeowner.
Your toilet?
Last 18 years. No, that was you. Okay, not me. And it's expensive. And to write that check to get a new one, it's painful.
What was it?
Any idea what it is?
Your
18, not the water heater.
$18,000?
No, it's not 18,000.
Oh, I thought you said that. What did you say?
No.
How much was it?
No, it was 18 years.
18 years it lasted. Well, you have to tell
years.
us how much the check was for. That way it kind of puts
I haven't wrote the check yet. I'm writing it today.
Ballpark. We talking four figures?
$6,000.
$6,000. And it lasted.
And it will be, I have been promised by my friend that it will be the last one that I ever have to buy.
Not your
18 years. HVAC, no, I just got that replaced.
Somebody said no HVAC. Idea.
I love doing it. Does that help you out? Does that clue you in at all?
That's almost the price of a 16-inch grab.
I'll say this. In certain trails, they are very prominent.
In certain trails?
Yeah.
What do you mean trails?
Organizations, bass fishing organizations.
Wait, what you got replaced
Marketing is very prevalent of this item.
Well, it's not a turkey.
He's got it. See it on the last one?
Oh, a mower?
Yeah.
Oh, did you get a zero turn?
I've had one. I had one for 18 years, dude.
Oh.
The Cub Cadet lasted 18 years.
Were you halfway through the yard and it just went?
Oh, yeah. And then I had to call actually it was, at least friends of ours, but it's AJ's buds. Hey, man, can you come over and fix my yard because my mower finally
Did you get a new fancy
down.
one?
It's pretty cool.
What is it?
It's called a Skag.
How
you
big
ever heard of a Skag? 52 inches.
That's a big deck.
It is a big deck. 52 inches. Because the Cub Cadet was only 48.
Oh, you just cut your mowing in half by 6 minutes.
52. And it's got a 23 horsepower Kawasaki.
You got a place to keep your green tea?
What?
A cup holder for your green tea.
Oh, yeah. It's got plenty of cup holders. Man, it's like the Bass Cat. It's got cup holders everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Ike couldn't hook you up? Isn't he?
No, believe me. I got a great deal on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he actually works. He works for a distributor for Skag. So
I know.
The deal. He said, "Hey, man, it's gonna be the last mower you ever have to buy."
I know we're up against.
Okay.
So we got to get Jeff Reynolds on. But I
Yeah.
learned it was a brand new technique that I saw yesterday watching a little bit of the BPT. I got to bring it up before we get to Jeff.
Let me guess. It's finesse fishing in some way.
It is finesse fishing, and it surprised me. Marty Stone, his mind was blown that Shin Fukai was able to compete finesse fishing on Chickamauga. But it was interesting because Shin's like, oh no, we've done this like forever in Japan, and it's been like really quiet. And he's like, but I guess now is the time to introduce it. And he's using like, that's how he said it. He's like, but now is the time. And
what, finesse fishing?
No, he called it, I believe, mid-strolling. And it's basically a Nico rig that he's fishing on sinking braided line because those fish on Chickamauga, they weren't running much current.
Yeah.
And they were suspended off the bottom, and they were petrified of hair jigs and spoons and big plugs after everybody had mauled them out there. And he's basically fishing a Nico rig on a spinning rod with sinking braided line to get it deep in the suspended water column where these fish randomly are, and forward facing sonar helps, but he's fishing it like moving horizontally, right, while kind of keeping it on the same plane. He's basically reeling in a Nico rig, a finesse style application. They're not like hitting it on the fall.
Wait a minute. You said horizontally?
Yeah, like he's
How
bringing
is he-
it through the water. It's not like he's lifting it and dropping it. He's working the bait in. It's a Nico rig suspended. You know, typically you let it fall down
Yeah.
and it hits the bottom, and then you pop it up and
Yeah.
it goes back down to the bottom, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, look how realistic that is. He's working it aggressively through the middle of the water column to target suspended fish while being able to keep it down with his setup.
That's pretty cool.
It's very cool. And when
Yeah.
you watched how effective it was unbelievable. Now, the other thing I also noticed was I have never seen so many guys have to go through the gill plates to unhook fish. Now, obviously, they know they don't have to keep those fish alive because it's catch, weigh, release. But, man, I saw no fewer than a dozen guys having to go in and do surgery on fish.
So are you going to try that? You going to try what he's doing?
Mid-strolling?
Is that what he called it?
Absolutely.
So, like, where around here could you try that? Could you go to Arbuckle and try it?
Grand, when they get offshore down there, Eufaula, Texoma. You could
What
do
was
it.
the water
You would
clarity
have
like?
to have a little bit of water clarity, I would assume,
Yeah.
because you're not having a huge profile there. Those fish have to be kind of pressured, and they have to be up off the bottom. They have to be kind of suspended.
Those are the hardest fish to catch, man.
Exactly, and he caught over 100 pounds of them.
Huh.
It was very interesting.
That's really cool.
Very interesting.
Wow.
Not too often you see something that's new. I mean, it's a hybrid, but here's why it really hit home. I had that Japanese angler on day 2 of Douglas.
Yeah.
He was doing the same thing. It's like a thing over there in Japan. He would cast out, and he had like 8.5 pounds behind me, and he was doing this thing where he's moving it, and the bait's moving through, and I'm like, what is this hybrid Carolina wacky Nico deal with like 9 different colors on his line? And then he'd be like, "Zzz, oh yeah, there's one." And it was very effective because that was the same situation there. Post spawn fish, they'd seen a lot of baits. I'd through him with a freaking Ned Rig and a biffle bug and stuff. They pulled up off the bottom, and he kicked my butt out of the back. He didn't kick my butt, he held his own. And then Shin was doing something very similar to this. So I've kind of seen it in action, and then I was able to watch how effective it is, and now I'm intrigued.
Let me know how that works out.
I wonder if Jeff Reynolds has ever won mid-strolling.
No.
He's shaking his head no.
No.
Is he in a
very
sauna?
big no, man, that's his house.
Okay,
nice.
that's the wood background there had me.
Yeah.
Okay, now I see it. I thought maybe he was in the sweating it out.
No. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with Jeff Reynolds. Classic Week on a Tuesday. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from chirp sonar and fish reveal to active imaging and new active target live sonar, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor. For a limited time, building the ultimate fishing system will be easier on your wallet. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, active target sonar, or live sight sonar, and save up to $800.
Basscat's legendary 20-foot platform has been paired with angler-approved accessories for 2021. Puma FTD features the proven hull used by many of the top names in bass fishing today, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. The Puma FTD boasts a full team deck concept which enhances efficiency for you and your tournament partners. Turnkey tournament-winning performance. The Puma FTD SP from Basscat.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
You've been waiting all week for this, and Sunline wants to make sure you're ready for it with bulk spools of all your favorite fishing lines.
Oh, it's so fun.
Bulk up with Sunline.
Utilizing my experience, utilizing my time on the water, evolving as an angler, and that evolution should never stop. You have to do it every day. From when you wake up in the morning, you got to be thinking about changing, continually changing every minute, every cast. That's really the premise of fishing the moment.
Hey everyone, Brandon Polnick here. People always be asking me what I got tied on. And I'm like, X-Zone lures. And they're like, Brandon, why you got X-Zone lures tied on? And I'm like, let me show you why.
The bite.
Get out of there! Get out of there!
Oh, yeah!
Oh, it's freaking digging. Get in here! Oh, God. Giant. Oh, my gosh! Oh, my gosh!
I think you get the point.
All right, we are back on a Tuesday. And it is time for our special guest. What was it? What was that rig called? What did you call it, or what did he call it?
Mid-strolling? Mid-range rig?
Mid-range.
Something of that nature.
Okay. Well, I want to check that out.
It involves a
Mid-range rig.
spinning rod and a worm. Things that you're not.
Yeah.
When was the last time you threw a spinning? When was
A shaky head down at Broken Bow.
Decades ago?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Really? You haven't used a spinning rod like seriously in how many years?
Probably 10 years.
Do you even have one in
Yeah.
the boat?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, you fished with like Ed Barton for crappie with one. But like as far as like bass fishing where you got something
shaky head at Broken Bow for a Federation qualifier.
Wow, that
time
is
ago.
years ago. That's before I even fished the. We've never been to Broken
Smashed
Bow for a really?
Yeah.
Little 13, 14-inch spots?
No, actually 16, 17, and 18.
Oh, you're getting the big one.
Yeah.
Fishing the treetops down there?
No. Just one little cut. Had them dialed in. A rarity.
On beds?
No.
Wow, I
No, it
was
was
0
pretty
for, 0 for 8 on your setup.
Yeah, no. All right, let's bring in our guest now. Let's see here. Jeff, how you doing, man?
Good, fellas. What's going on?
It is classic week. Things are great. And I want to kick things off because Matt and I got into a little discussion at the beginning of the show about, I think it was 2005, Pittsburgh, the cowboy hat. What was the scoop on that?
Well, one of my sponsors thought it would be a good idea for me to wear a cowboy hat across the stage. They knew I got into roping, and it was right after I'd shot a commercial with Vicious Fishing Line and showed me roping and done all that kind of stuff. So under contract, I had to wear a Nitro logo on my hat. So I talked to Nitro about it, and they were all for it. So we put a logo on the hat and went across the stage. And
it was awesome.
It was in Alabama, and everybody went crazy. So, I mean, they thought it was after the weigh-in was over with. I went to the expo for a little bit, and I walked in the Nitro booth, and I'd taken my hat off because I thought, I don't really need to wear that. And the lady that was kind of in charge there, she's like, "Where's the hat?" So I took it off. She said, "Well, you need to go put it back on." Okay.
Well, I thought it was Pittsburgh. It was Alabama, though?
It was Alabama. Yep.
Okay, I was wrong.
And then were you told that you couldn't wear it anymore?
No, I never did. Well, the deal was, one of my sponsors, he's like, "Man, that's your deal. You need to wear a cowboy hat all the time." I was like, "Dude, you don't understand. You cannot wear a cowboy hat when you're running 70 mile an hour down the lake. That is going to be
strap.
Exactly. Put a chin strap on it and take off."
Wow.
So you were a big time roper then, or are? Do you still rope?
No, I actually sold all my horses. Tore my rotator cuff, and I couldn't swing a rope, so no need in feeding animals.
Header or
for nothing.
healer?
I was a header, but
There's
not
a-
big time.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a lot more. You start going around to these ACRA and KPRA and IFR rodeos and stuff, and there is a lot in common between like the ropers and the tie down guys and all that and tournament bass fishing. I think it would shock people how similar it is as far as expense to go in and then payback and then how it all works.
Yep.
Those guys will like run, just a little side, like you'll run like 3 rodeos a night sometimes. Like, you know, when you're in the morning and you're seeing bass, have you ever done that, Mark? You're going to the lake and you're seeing all the trailers going.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always like, man, I didn't know rodeo started that early in the morning. No, they're done from that night because they're in the slack. They're roping at 2, 3 in the morning.
Oh, kind of like softball.
Yeah, playing softball. But anyway, I think that's a whole show on how similar the rodeo scene is to that BFL open level of bass fishing and how hard it is to actually make it. I mean, there's a whole sponsor element and all sorts of different like team tournaments and roping. Like there's a lot of parallels there.
Absolutely.
All right,
A lot
Jeff.
of time, a lot of money.
Yeah. Let's get into a little bit what's been up with Jeff Reynolds since you bowed out of the Bassmaster Elite Series. I know you took a little time off, but you still remain active in Southern Oklahoma fishing team stuff in Texas and doing a little TV with Wade Middleton. So what's been going on?
Man, that's been about it. Still hunting and fishing a lot. I actually got into golf a whole lot. Always golfed a little bit, but playing a lot of golf, but been fishing a lot of tournaments, do some filming for Wade Middleton, film some hunting and fishing shows, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, that's pretty much it. Still fishing a bunch. Probably fish more now than what I ever have.
Really?
Yeah. I fished, a lot of little stuff around, Texoma and some team trails in Texas. Fished the Texas Team Trail ever since they started. One angler a year, a couple times in that. And fishing the Toyota Series. Fished that and actually qualified to fish the Tour next year.
Is that the plan?
That's the plan right now. Working on spawn. And everything's going pretty good right now, so keeps going that way. I'm probably going to get back into it.
Very nice. Now, are you going to compete in this latest high-stakes team tournament that's going to take place. Actually, one event is going to be on Lake Texoma, and then I think Sam Rayburn, and I can't remember where the third one is.
I think it's like Lake Palestine or something. I'm looking at that. The last two tournaments, I probably can't fish. I've already got other things going in. And I think you have to pay the deposits for all of them before you – I don't think you can just like jackpot one. So, my team partner, he's wanting to fish on Texoma, which I'd love to, but I don't know if we'll be able to do it or not. So,
all right. I want to reflect back to Pittsburgh. You had a top 12 finish in Pittsburgh, one of the most, if not the most difficult Bassmaster Classics in the history of that event. What was it like competing in Pittsburgh? And did you not, and I can't remember, did you not make the Super 6 that year? I think you did.
Yep.
What was that like? What was that experience like?
It was kind of weird. We always have a practice period before the tournament, for the classics, usually like a month before or something. I can't remember exactly. But when we go down there to practice, I spent 3.5 days and never caught a keeper. Nobody I talked to ever caught a keeper. Me and Creek were traveling together. He never caught a keeper. And I don't know. We were just like, I mean, if somebody catches a keeper, you're going to make it to the last day. You're going to finish. You're going to be in the top 20. So we get down there, and the practice day we had the day before the tournament, I just kind of went running around, and I actually found this pipe that had water coming out of one of these steel mills or whatever that plants they have up there. But there was water running out of that pipe into the river, and it was real clean water, and there was shad just piled up all down through there. And I pulled in there, and I caught a couple fish, and I thought, man, this could be a good spot, better than anything else I've got. So I go back in there in the tournament and ended up I catch 3 there the first day, and I catch 4 there the second day. But the weird thing about it is, and I don't know what it was, but about 10:30 or 11 o'clock every day, that clear water that was coming out of there would turn just milky white. I mean, it looked like somebody was pouring milk out that pipe. I don't know if that's what this is. But all the shad would leave. As soon as that, and I don't blame him, but as soon as all that stuff started coming out, I couldn't catch any more fish around there. Not that I wanted to keep fishing around there, but I would just have to leave. And I actually, no kidding though, I really kind of figured out the winning pattern. I guess what would have been the winning pattern if Aaron would have landed them, but catch them on the bridge pilings. Anytime you get a barge to come by you when you're on them bridge pilings, I could catch them, but then catch them on a shaky head, or I was actually throwing a little, I don't even know what the name of the bait was. It was a little crappie bait on an 1/8 ounce jig head. It was, like a 3-inch long crappie bait. And that's what I was catching them on. But once I got on that pipe, I could catch them there. And when I left that pipe, I never could get back on them bridge pilings. There was always Aaron or KVD, he was fishing them. Somebody was always sitting on them bridge pilings.
Oh, wow. That's like a double-edged sword. That had to play with your head. Like, do you sit there because you can catch them early, but then you can't catch them late? Or do you sit there where you're giving up a good early bite, but then you'll have a bridge piling to catch them late? And it's the Bassmaster Classic, and you're in contention to win. That had to be a mental freaking war going on.
Really, I thought I had the tournament won. My camera guy that was with me the second day, when I caught, I don't know, it was like my 3rd or 4th keeper, I just kind of threw my rod down, and I held my hands up in the air and started yelling, I just won the Classic. And I was joking, but he didn't really know me. And I mean, people that knows me know like that. And he's filming me, he's got that camera. And I'm saying, I just won the Classic. And I'm hollering, and looks around the camera. And he's like, hey, what are you talking about? And I said, man, there can't be but 1 or 2 more fish in this old river system. So I've done the Classic 1. They can't catch me.
Wow.
So I thought that was funny.
Well, the thing about Pittsburgh, obviously it was brutally tough, but the crowds, the expo was unreal. One of the largest crowds, most insane crowds at a weigh-in that I have ever been to in the 23 classics that I've attended, or 22. This will be 23rd. I want to know your thoughts, Jeff, on the first classic to be in the center of the DFW Metroplex and really a large concentration of bass fishing anglers in North Texas in the DFW area. What can we expect from a fan perspective? Forget about COVID, because I think we're past that.
Right.
Is this going to be just an absolute all-time crowd because of where this event is taking place?
I think it is. I hope it is. I mean, you know how it is down here in the South. I mean, we love to fish. We love our outdoors. And, man, I think they're really going to show up for this. I think it's going to be huge, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's dive into Ray Roberts. And part of the reason why I reached out to you was to give us some insight on this body of water. You're very familiar with it, have spent some time on the body of the water. Here it is, June, but a very unique characteristic about Ray Roberts, the water's up, and it's been up for a while. It's up 3.5 feet now. You can catch fish offshore. It has what I told Matt, that Ray Roberts green to it. That is a weird characteristic about that body of water, that green color of water. What can we expect, and is this high water going to throw a wrench in what we thought was totally going to be an offshore event?
I think it is 100% going to throw a wrench in it. Yeah, the good thing about it, I think they probably got some rain down there last night. You know, I live about 45 minutes from there, and just looking at the weather, I seen the weather, and there's supposed to be a little storm come through there. That lake, parts of that lake can get really, really muddy, and it can take it a while to clear up. So, man, I know there's going to be some fish offshore, and if it hadn't been for all this rain, I would say definitely somebody's going to land on them and catch 30 pounds out deep. Now, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's going to be some fish caught out deep, which there always is. You know, them guys are good enough. They're going to find some out there, but I don't think they're going to be schooled up like they would have been. I think this is going to be more of a shallow water deal, a little bit deep, and I tell you what I think is going to be the biggest kicker is them suspended fish. That lake is full of standing timber, and if somebody gets that dialed in, I think they can blow it away.
So not like middle of the bushes, heavy, close quarter, 25-pound fluoro type of stuff, but you're talking about like pitching to standing timber, like with a 10-inch worm or throwing a jerk bait by it.
A big spinner bait over it. That lake's always been a good spinnerbait lake. The forks of them trees down there, they will really set in the forks of them trees, and you can catch them flipping it. You can catch them throwing a spinnerbait. I've caught them in the fall on a top water down there over it. It will not be, whatever that was you was calling it a while ago, strolling a Nico rig.
Mid-strolling the Nico rig?
It would not be that.
Well,
it
Jeff,
might be strolling a spinnerbait midday.
I mean, the way... what is that lake that had the virus really bad on it? Anyway, lakes that have the standing timber on it, like forward-facing sonar is really good at seeing big fish that are suspended next to those things. And there's a couple of these guys in here that have made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. Could we see the Classic one looking down at a screen?
You could. Absolutely, you could. I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be more a guy that's just going to take off. I think you're going to find places like that that's going to be on the bend in a creek or something that they're going to be stacked up in, and he's just going to be, you know, whether it's cranking a square bill through that stuff, you know. And I say cranking a square bill, I'm talking about fish that are in 10 to 12 foot of water, but they're only suspended 3 or 4 foot underneath the surface. So I think they're going to be backed off of them, just running around throwing a spinnerbait, square bill, pitching. Or it's going to be up shallow. Now, I'll tell you another thing in this lake. The little green beanie bushes or little green willow bushes, it gets a lot of them. There's a lot of them in that lake, and that could be a factor. I've caught them really good out of that before.
All right, Jeff, it was really tough for me. I spent 8-9 hours trying to handicap my Classic odds this year. And one, there's really not a whole lot of history from big events being on Ray Roberts. Yeah, there's been a few, and some guys we've seen do quite well in the few events, big events that have been on Ray Roberts. But the comparison that a lot of people like to make, just from a structure standpoint, this time of the year is Lake Fork. You've got standing timber, you've got, you know, points, you've got ledges, you've got characteristics that are similar, except the fish, because the fish are not the same. Is that a good comparison just from a structure standpoint? And if somebody has performed well at Lake Fork during the month of June, summer months, could they take that and really apply some of the characteristics to that Fork experience to Ray Roberts? What are your thoughts?
I absolutely think so. The only difference I see in Fork and Ray Roberts, like you said, other than the size of fish, is grass. Fork typically has a lot more grass than Ray Roberts does. And now Ray Roberts does have a couple creeks that normally have grass in them. I don't know if they do this year or not, but they normally do. And a guy could blast them in there one day. But it's not enough to hold up for 3 days of the tournament, if that was to be the deal. But somebody that really knows how to fish that standing timber, and somebody that knows how to fish shell beds, or not that there's a lot in Ray Roberts, but there is some. But there's a lot of just little small patches of rocks. And y'all know what I'm talking about. You get on a point and you find a little patch of rocks that's sitting out there in 8 to 10 foot all by itself. That's probably where that fish is going to be, or a school of fish. So I think it's going to set up a lot like Ford.
It sounds like a spot tournament, almost like kind of like Conroe, like where it's like, hey, you get out on here, and if you get a bite, it's going to be in this patch. And,
that's right.
And so then my other question is, we've seen a lot of big swim baits play this year, especially down in Fork. I mean, is that going to be, are you going to see Zaldane throwing a 10-inch mag draft and the glide baits and all that stuff, or is it just not set up for that?
I don't think it is. Normally, Ray Roberts is not that clear. To me, when you're throwing baits like that, you want fairly clear water. Okay. So I don't think it will be. Now, I'm not an expert on that stuff, so I don't throw it that much. But I think it's going to be probably the guy that wins the tournament. Honestly, as bad as I hate to say it, 'cause I'd love to see somebody win it up shallow or flipping trees, just because that's what I like doing. But it's probably going to be like a Carolina rig or football jig or a big worm on them little rock patches, something in that mid-range on bottom. But I'm telling you, you talk about the size of fish on Fork and Ray Roberts. Ray Roberts has got some giants in it. I mean, you will see some 7 and 8 pound fish weighed in. And don't be surprised if you don't see a 30-pound stringer.
Percentage chance, this is for Jeffries. Out of 100% chance that this tournament is predominantly won on a Carolina rig. I'm not saying every fish gets caught, right, but that the winner says, man, primary bait, Carolina rig. What's your percentage chance? Because this is Jeffrey's dream right here. Some guy who catches a couple on a spook early and then goes out and Carolina rigs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to say percent chance. I'm going to say there's a 65% chance that the guy that wins this tournament catches half of his fish on a Carolina rig.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of what I thought. It's big, and it's big on that body of water. It is a player, without a doubt.
If it wasn't for so much water in the lake and lake not being high, I would say there's a 90% chance.
Wow.
But I mean, that's just how they catch a lot of them big ones. Now, they catch a lot of them big ones in the trees, too. And let me tell you, one thing that could go on that people might be overlooking is the tail end of the shad spawn. I don't know if it's still going on at Ray Roberts. There's still a little bit going on at Texoma. So it could be, I mean, a guy could pull up on a stretch and wear him out early on a shad spawn.
Yeah, that was my next question, kind of unrelated to the shad spawn. But I want to know, Jeff, how important is the first 60 minutes of each day?
I think it's going to be pretty big. I think the fish are going to be so scattered right now that it's really going to be big to find you a place that you can pull into and catch you 2 or 3 keepers. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily for just because of the weight or they're going to be bigger or nothing like that. Just for the fact of being settled in to the class, all the nerves that are going to be going on. You know, when you get to 10 o'clock in the day and you've only got 1 keeper or don't have any keeper, I mean, it can kind of get in your head and make you fish different. I mean, this is the Bassmaster Classic, and these are all great fishermen. They're all fishing to win, but it still makes you fish different. And you know what it's like, you know, when you get midday and you're struggling and you've got that much money at line and that title on the line, it's going to make you fish a little bit different.
Now, I mean, if you've been on Louisville, DFW area in June, I mean, you're right in between the major holidays. You're approaching the 4th of July. Where does Ray Roberts rank as far as recreational traffic? And then also we talked about how many bass anglers there are in that area. And I would imagine a lot of them said, hey, I can go drive an hour, put the boat in, watch these guys fish, and still make the weigh-in. Are we going to see, for the first time with a Summer Classic since 2005, boat traffic and recreational traffic play a major role in this thing?
I think you will. The difference is all the timber that are in that lake. If that many people get on the lake and get to chasing some of these guys, you know how these guys run timber. I mean, it's like it's not even there. I mean, what is it Tommy Biffle used to always say? If you can't see it, it's not there.
Yep. So, and that's why Bobby Lane said that's why they make more than one lower unit.
That's exactly right. You're going to see guys that are – and that could be a good strategy for some of these guys, you know, going up in that timber where they can get away from the crowds. And, I mean, you can take off up through there and lose some people. You know, a lot of them guys are not going to be brave enough to run. And, I mean, I could see somebody just running way back in a creek and turn around and coming back out. And, you know, either guys are sitting there waiting on him or just motors and boats strung everywhere. I mean, that lake can get pretty dangerous.
It's interesting. I remember Gary Klein telling a story one time. He said, dude, I can't remember what it was, but he was fishing a popar on seawalls. And he said in practice and on day one, he said it was game on. And he said you'd roll up, and he said you'd let your wake settle, and you'd cast up there and go bloop, and they'd come off. And he said he was in like the top 5. He said, well, he's in the top 5. He said he had 30, 40 boats behind him. So he said first thing, he rolls up to a seawall, frickin' shuts down, casts his popar up there, and then the wake from 30 or 40 boats come behind him about 30 seconds later, and he realized it's trashed. He said the whole thing was trash. He never caught another fish on that pattern because he hadn't taken into account the spectator boats that would be following him once he realized. So then he ended up spending a lot of time shutting down a quarter mile, trying to idle to his spots. He said it was just, so I think there's a lot of strategy, like Jeff said, involved as far as crowd management.
Yeah. How important is adjustments going to be this week, Jeff? And what I mean by that is somebody going to, let's say they get on them in the standing timber. Are they going to be able to fish standing timber for 3 days, or are they going to have to do multiple things to get the win?
I think you're going to have to do multiple things. You know, if you figure that standing timber deal out, yeah, there's definitely enough of it. But the problem to me on Ray Roberts, that lake just don't fish that big. I think you're going to see a lot of people fishing the same stuff. And then, I mean, I think you're going to have to be able to catch some up shallow. Then you're going to have to be able to go to, you know, the trees or the offshore, whatever it is you find different. I think you're going to have to do multiple things to win this tournament. I don't think you can just pick up one bait and say, I'm going to blow it away.
Adjusting on the fly.
Numbers-wise, what are we talking? Are guys going to be 5 to 8 by today? Is it a numbers lake? I mean, how's the population?
The population is good, but it's, of course, like we said before, these guys are the best in the business, so they're going to know where they're at. I mean, they're going to have a pretty good idea where some fish are. I mean, you can go fish that lake and not catch anything. I mean, it's not like that they just live everywhere, but when you get around them, you can catch quite a few. I mean, I think you're going to see guys catching, especially with the water up, I mean, 8 to 15 or 20 bites a day. I mean, I think some of them guys fishing shallow are going to get a lot of bites.
Wow. All right, I want you to give some insight to the fans, and this has nothing to do with what takes place on the water. Can you explain how physically and mentally challenging it is at a Bassmaster Classic with all the commitments, all the time restraints, how difficult it is to get through the entire week? You've experienced it. I mean, it's just the demanding schedule that you guys have, plus still trying to focus on winning the biggest trophy in the biz. How can you tell the fans what that's like?
I'll tell you what it's like. When you get to the actual tournament day, when you put your boat in the water, it's like a relief, because it's about fishing now. It's not about the sponsorship game or none of that. And saying that, I mean, we couldn't do it without sponsors, so that is a big part of it. But the week leading up to it, when you're, having to do shows, you're going into different booths and talking, and there's just so much. Everybody's wanting a little bit of your time, but when it gets to the actual tournament day, it's like, okay, I mean, obviously you're mentally wore out, you're just drained, but when you get on that water and everybody's down there cheering and yelling during takeoff. It's just a whole different thing. Man, it's really hard to explain. I was so excited my first Classic that I was just the takeoff. I'm telling you, when they called my boat number, when I put that hot foot down, I was trying to mash it through the floorboard. I was so excited. So it's a different deal, and you got to learn to calm them nerves. I mean, especially when you get to fishing. You know, if you're dragging that suspended Nico rig on 12-pound line, I mean, you're going to get fired
sinking
up.
line.
The hook.
Sinking line.
Yeah, sinking line. You're going to break it off. But no, seriously, it's really stressful. There's a lot going on, and in the back of your mind the whole time you're thinking about this is a life-changing event right here. I mean, I got a lot of stuff going on right now, a lot of stuff I got to do before the tournament ever gets here, but you're still looking at that down the road. It's like in your mind the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
If I win this is going to change my life.
Well, you fished 4 Classics in the span of 5 years, and we're in the hunt in the first couple of them. Did that change by the time you got to your 4th Classic? Do you feel like you had an advantage over the guys who you could look at and be like, that guy spun out? Or is it, I mean, I'm just saying, does it get more manageable each one, or is it like you're a rookie every single Classic launch?
Yeah. It is. I mean, it gets a little weird. But even in the last one I fished, I was still so excited. But I get that way. I guess I'm like a tournament junkie, because it don't matter if us 3 go out and fish a tournament tomorrow. I want to hear somebody call my boat number. Jeff Reynolds, your boat number 2. All right, boy, I'm going to hammer down, and here we go. I just get that excited in tournaments. But for the Classic, you know, I mean, you learn to deal with it a lot better. Obviously you do. But it's still, I don't care who it is, and I don't care if it's somebody that's done 1, 2, or 3 of them. When you get to thinking about what winning the Classic would do for you, and you can't help but get, people may call it excited, but we know, I mean, you're still nervous. You can call it whatever you want to, but you're still nervous, excited, whatever.
All right. I have to ask, and we're going to let you go, Jeff, but Lake Texoma, I'm curious your thoughts. How good has Lake Texoma been this year with all the high water, and what effect do you think the high water is going to have for the future of the lake from a spawning perspective from the spawn this year? I've heard stories that this is the best that Texoma has been in quite some time, but I want to hear from the expert. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the biggest thing that's going to help it this year is the high water we've had during the spawn. I have actually not caught one bedding fish this year on Texoma.
Wow.
Not that you couldn't. I don't go out there during the week and mess with them when they're trying to spawn. I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but I just don't do that. It seems like every year every time we get a big flood or a lot of high water, it's almost like it just flushes this lake out, and we get all this fresh water, and the lake just gets that much better. So I think, like right now, the lake's pretty good. You know, the weights are a little bit lower than, the few tournaments we've had here recently. I won one a couple weeks ago with like almost 17 pounds, and it should have been taking 20. But yeah. I think that's because the lake was up, but it's at a level that it's not high enough to really get in the willows or the bushes or stuff, and it to be really good. But it's too high for, to catch anything, out deeper than 6 or 7 foot, unless you're on, shad spawn on the boathouses. So yeah, it's good. There's a lot of fish in the lake, no doubt. And I think in the next couple of years, it's just going to get that much better. I think the Florida fish have finally taken off on this lake, and it's going to be good.
What's the biggest smallmouth that are in there now? I mean, I've seen guys that are catching big ones. It seems like there's an abundance of like 4 to 6 pound smallmouth in that lake right now.
There is 4 and 5 pounders. There is a bunch of them. It's not uncommon to catch a 7 pounder, or to hear somebody catching a 7 pound smallmouth. Now, it don't happen that often, but there is 7 pounders in here. I'm sure.
You think there's an 8 in there?
I do. I know. I seen one time. I just caught and weighed. Me and a buddy of mine were just out goofing around, and I just caught and weighed a 6 pounder. And on the very next cast, I had one follow my jerkbait up that he just like come up. It's almost like he wanted to show himself to me. He come up, rolled over on his side, right at the boat. I'm talking about 3 foot from me. Rolled over on his side and went down. And I guarantee you he was over 8 pounds. I mean, he was an absolute giant, but didn't catch himself.
I mean, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
And you see glimpses of it. Now, day in and day out, you're not going to compete with it. But there are Lake St. Clair bags of smallmouth in Lake Texoma. I mean, there's that have been caught. There's 24, 25-pound bags of smallmouth.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, I mean, that's insane. Mm-hmm. That's almost like, when you go down to Amistad and you catch a Mexican smallmouth. You're like, dude, I literally just caught the most southern smallmouth on earth.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy. My last question is, dude, do you have like a favorite on this? Or are you like, this guy's going to catch him on Ray Roberts?
No, I really don't. I mean, you know how it is. When you get to this tournament and this level of guys, I mean, anybody could win. I wouldn't even know who to pick for a favorite. I would think somebody like a Clark Wendlandt, somebody that's pretty good deep and pretty good shallow. I mean, I know he won Angler of the Year last year. It is Texas. He lives in Texas, and he kind of knows how to catch them anywhere, I guess you could say. But I think this could set up really good for him. I know how he likes to fish, and I think this could be right in his wheelhouse.
One more question. I haven't said. What are your thoughts on like a Chris Jones coming out of nowhere on this? Because I know he's kind of an Oklahoma guy. It seems like it kind of sets up for him. And as it's gotten closer and closer to the tournament, he's got classic experience in the past. He's won a couple of opens. It's not that far from him. I could see him really competing and just staying shallow on this deal.
I do too. And that guy's, I don't personally know him that well. I know he's a good fisherman. That's obvious. You can see by what he's done. He's won tournaments. He's won big tournaments. And, I mean, the guy can catch him. And I don't think he's going to be scared of what he's in. I don't think he's going to be scared of fishing against the Clark Wendlandts of the world or something like that. I think he's going to go out there and say, hey, let's get it on, boys. And I think he's going to have a good tournament. And I absolutely think he could win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great stuff. Jeff, man, can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It's great to talk to you again. And, man, one of these days, I know I've said it a zillion times when you were out there on the Elite Series, but I seriously, now that I'm retired, more or less, and got a little bit of time, I do want to spend a day with you on Texoma, man.
Absolutely. Let's do it. And, hey, one other thing.
Yeah.
Tonight, are you going to be watching TV tonight? A little Sports Center or something?
Yeah.
Don't tell me. Boomer Sooners, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, they go up against Florida State. And an upset. They upset Florida State, upset Alabama last night.
I was kind of hoping it'd be Alabama.
Yeah, I wanted it to be Alabama, too.
They got a better chance against Florida State.
Yeah.
I was, too. I wanted Oklahoma to beat Alabama so I could give Swindle a hard time again. I mean, he really gets
I don't know what it is about softball, but it's like sucks you in, and then you like end up like rooting incredibly hard for it.
Yeah,
I love watching softball. Yeah, it's great.
It's cool stuff. All right, Jeff, we will talk to you soon, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it, man.
All right, man. Take care, Jeff.
All right.
There you have it. Jeff Reynolds giving us the scoop on Ray Roberts. And a lot of people out there may not realize how good of an angler that Jeff is. Not was, but is.
Yeah, no, he's pretty dominant regionally and nationally.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember he was the first guy, the very first time we went to, I think it was Falcon. Mm-hmm. He was one of the first guys that I pulled up on when we were on the water covering it. What are those trees called on Falcon?
Bushes?
There's some name
I just
for
call
those
them trees.
They got thorns on them, and they are deadly. All right, and he was flipping those trees, and I can't remember what it was called, and he hooked up, dude, and he got that fish kind of hung up a little bit, and he had to go down in there to try and get it, and he comes up and he's got blood all on his arms from those freaking trees. I'm like, dude, you all right? Oh, yeah, I'm all right. Here, let me just rub it off here.
I say, the rodeo guys, don't, like, you have to be so mentally tough. So, like, if you're the healer, you can do all this stuff, have all your horse, and if the header doesn't do his job, you just literally run out of the gate for 3 seconds and your night's over.
Yeah.
If you're the header, you got all the responsibility of it. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that I think.
What's going to be cool about Jeff to watch him on the Tackle Warehouse tour next year?
Yeah.
He's got to be one of the guys out there that really has a shot. I don't care what the schedule is because he is really, really versatile and had a good Elite Series career. Not a great one, but just solid. And wish him nothing but the best. And we'll look forward to seeing him on the Tackle Warehouse.
I forgot. I'm assuming he's going to be at the
circuit.
Classic.
Oh, we should have asked him. I didn't ask him. That's my bad.
He is going to be at the Classic.
He's nodding in his head, yeah, that he's going to be there. All right, let's do this, man. Let's take a quick break, come back. I've got one very either easy or tough question
I
for you to
changed my
answer.
fantasy team 9 times during the conversation with Jeff. I went all forward-facing sonar guys. Then I went all butt brush flipping guys. Then I went combo of like, the Welcher, Brian New type guys who can do everything.
Yeah.
And now I've got a mixture of everybody.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back on a Tuesday.
Pro-inspired, pro-designed. Tested and proven by legends on the water. Dominating the tournament trail for over 50 years. Everything you need, one legendary brand. Strike King.
Hey guys, Major League Fishing Pro Jacob Wheeler here with my new Signature Series line of rods with Duck It Fishing. We have my 7.2 cranking rod right here. Crankbaits can be very fickle, and having the right, having a lot of tip can be too much, and having not enough tip can, lose a lot of fish. So you really got to be careful. If there's one or two techniques that I'm really adamant about having the perfect action as a crankbait, especially like a square bill, a DT6, those medium running crankbaits in the springtime when those fish's mouth are pretty tough. That's when I'm really on top of having my actions just perfect.
Big companies get bigger and bigger and talk about their fancy labs where they study fish behavior, but then they all go golfing on the weekend. We don't have a large laboratory to test baits. Why, you ask? We don't need a big laboratory because our pros fish, our employees fish, our salespeople fish, our suppliers fish, our mold builders fish, our owners fish, and our kids fish. This is our laboratory. Our R&D comes from time on the water, learning how to make fish bite. All that time on the water brings us thousands of hours of testing new products and improving current ones for all species.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
Guys, what makes our Spro lures beat the competition?
I mean, you have to admit, we nailed it with my McSticks and rock crawlers.
Man, we've all won money on my plugs.
My Wamic shot put fish in my boat.
One thing's for sure, we all count on our Spro lures to beat the competition.
Designing cutting-edge baits with some of America's top anglers. Spro lures beat the competition. To see the entire lineup, visit a retailer near you or spro.com.
The Ned Rig. What rod should I be using with the Ned Rig? My favorite is the Denali Lithium multi-spin rod. It's our 7'4" length, great Ned Rig rod. It's got a great sensitive tip on it. It's long enough where I can make long casts, which you're usually fishing clear water with a Ned Rig, and it's got enough backbone to get those fish in. So check it out, Denali Lithium Series, 7'4" multi-spin.
All right, we are back, wrapping up Tuesday. Mark and Matt in studio. And I have a question for you, Matt.
Hit me with it.
All right. Many years ago, Ray Scott said, and this has been debated numerous times, that the guy that wins the Bassmaster Classic becomes an instant millionaire. Do you believe that that is still the case, and does that happen in the new millennium?
Well, when he said that, I think the Classic was worth like 50 grand.
Yeah.
The most it's been worth is what, 500 grand. Now
Yep.
it's, I think, 300. I think it depends on the guy and how he utilizes it and who wins it and how he wins it and what he wins it on. Like, I would feel like unless it's a unique plastic, like a Carolina rig is a hard Classic winning bait to market.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
No.
It's an easy Classic winning bait to market.
Yes, very easy. Because it's something that everybody can do. In other words, you don't have to be... I know there's people that are specialized in throwing a Carolina rig.
But how do you
or
make
throwing a
money
football
off of it
jig.
if you're an angler? What do you put your name on a 3/4 ounce weight?
Maybe it's a modified, very specific, tricked out technique utilizing the Carolina rig that he may have done. It's a forgotten tactic.
Jeff
It
Reynolds
really
seems
is,
to
dude.
think that is the leading way this thing is going to be won. That and standing timber.
It is a forgotten tactic. Now, old people like me have
Old
not forgotten
school.
about it. Yeah, have not forgotten about it. But I think in the modern times of all the fancy techniques that are available to the young anglers, to people like yourself, you can't even tell me the last time you even tied one on.
And you can't tell me the last time you threw. Well, you did.
I
tell me the
did.
last time you threw.
I remember. It was broken bow.
So, like, who in here is going to throw a... I mean, dude, I'm thinking old school people that are fishing in
Todd
the
Otten?
Classic. Cody Bird?
Oh, yeah.
That guy seems like a guy who would throw... Well, I mean, I just can't see Brandon Polinick out there slinging a Carolina rig.
You'd be surprised. Has not had a great practice either,
Frank
by the way.
Talley, I mean, maybe Brandon Lester, one of those guys out there. I mean, you ain't going to see it on John Cox's front deck with a 3.5 foot high.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going through the list now of guys. I bet Clint Davis would throw it.
Probably. I don't know if it's worth $1 million, dude.
No.
I just don't think
I think it depends on who. I think if Polinick wins it, yeah.
Maybe.
Because you've got a guy who's already got a platform. Like that's built, a revenue generating platform.
You know
that's
what would be
already
a
built.
great story? It will never happen, but you never know. With the amount of time that Hank Cherry was reigning Bassmaster Classic champion.
What that did for him.
Did that have any more of an income
generating
factor because of the extended time that he was Bassmaster Classic champion?
I think when Ray said it, he was talking about over a career. And I think he was talking about like, hey, now you can go to a sports expo and instead of charging $100, you can charge $300.
Yeah.
And you do that, that's back when that was like the way they made money in the off season, right?
Now you just throw a YouTube video out there.
Right. But you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When Ray said that, he was talking about appearance fees and bait royalties and stuff. It's like a totally different world now.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't know. Does a $10,000 contract suddenly become a $50,000 contract just because you win the Classic? I mean, do you walk in and say, you want to keep me? We have to renegotiate? Are there clauses that big in contracts? Like with
Do you
bonuses
become more
and stuff?
valuable? Yes.
Yeah.
But as I've said numerous times on this show, if you are fishing the Bassmaster Classic or feel that you have the capability of qualifying for the Bassmaster Classic, that contract has to be loaded up with incentives. Has to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, you're missing it out. You're totally missing out. It's hard. That's the other thing. I don't think people realize how hard it is to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. If you've done that, there needs to be that incentive-based cash flow in your contract to where you get rewarded for that hard work that you've put in. And then if you win the thing, there better be a fat check besides the one that you're getting from Bass if you did your contracts correctly. Because I do. I think that the companies, and this is the other thing too, Matt. You said, yes, it depends on who it is. I think it depends on how the companies utilize
100%
that asset. Because it is an asset.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that asset is utilized from a marketability standpoint.
I mean, you've seen Pure Fishing use Jordan Lee's back-to-back classic wins a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got like the Champ stuff and his own line of baits and the commercials of him like lifting it up and stuff.
Yeah.
I would really like to know about Ott, because that's the what, I mean, what did Ott get out of it? Because he had it during the transition year. The last two classic guys, think about this. The last two classic guys are transition to MLF and COVID.
Yeah.
That's really two way outside the norm scenarios that happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had like an entire flip in the sport, and then you had the sport completely put on hold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the last ones would have been the back-to-back with Jordan Lee.
Yeah.
But then he left. Yeah, it was just a weird deal.
I think you got to be proactive. I think plan on if the scenarios take place, you get rewarded on that, then the companies react and put together a marketing package. Even if it, everybody's screaming YouTube, that's fine. YouTube is a valuable tool in their marketing efforts. All right? Well, these guys need to be compensated for those marketing efforts. So we'll see. Dude, this is, like I said, this is going to be my 23rd. One of the most exciting fields just from I really don't know who's going to win. After that day one, to see what the standings look like and then really see what happens on day two based upon the performance on day. It's going to be magnificent.
Where are you going to watch the final day weigh-in?
Me?
Mm-hmm. Media room, floor.
I don't know because I don't know. I don't know
press
what
box.
Probably in the media room.
From the stands.
Probably in the media room.
You don't want to be out there and see it in person.
I'll walk out. And then be in the media room.
I did this
probably.
last year because obviously we're not like doing articles and stuff on it. We're just getting a feel for BTL.
Yeah.
I watched it in the stands.
Last year?
Yeah, first time ever.
And
sitting in
what
the
are your
stands.
thoughts?
I'm gonna watch it in the stands.
Yeah.
But
I might do that.
If it starts at 3 and I know I can get a seat at 4:30, I ain't getting out there till 4:30 because it was. I mean, you had jumping dogs and kayaks and people throwing hats. I mean, it was like 2 hours leading up to it.
Yeah, I think that. What does the winner get? $300,000?
I believe so. But yeah, that Super 6 to be there and watch that. I mean, that's it. That's what those guys work for. Is that Super 6?
Yeah, I remember Reynolds in Pittsburgh in the Super 6.
You know, I kind of wish.
Really cool.
I mean, I know they have to. They can't do it any other way because of the package that they have to have, right?
Yeah.
When they announce the Super 6. But I wish, always feel like the guys, like McClellan did it at the Grand Classic and stuff, who come from like 15th to finish 2nd or 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they get gypped out of their glory because they just come through regular, right? And I understand there's no other way they can do it. I'm not saying anything disparaging about it. I'm just saying, like, I wish there was a way they could experience the dark and the glow and the lights and the announcement because they knew that, like, hey, I mean, it's a 3-day tournament. So there's guys who bomb in the Super 6 who finish 20th in the tournament, but everyone remembers them from the Classic and no one remembers the guy who came up and finished 3rd because he wasn't in the Super 6 and didn't get the slow-mo package with his head raised as he sits backwards on a chair and talks about how it was his lifelong dream and zooms into his eye.
Yeah. It's going to be weird to see how they do the weigh-in this year because of the weigh-in taking place on location.
I didn't know that. Did you?
No. And then they're going to
until
bring
the
in a
final
couple
day.
fish.
The final day it will be.
Yeah. Bring all 5 in. So that's going to be interesting to see that dynamic and how that develops out.
Was it not? Did we not have Canterbury on after Wally was the reigning angler of the year and he said he didn't have a title sponsor?
Yeah.
I mean, he does now, but I'm just saying at the time because I see Jim saying that he didn't think Canterbury got a whole heck of a lot for winning angler of the year.
Yeah, I think that's changed too.
And it also depends on what you consider a whole heck of a lot. What did Floyd Mayweather call it? Generational wealth?
Well, whatever. That's jeez.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, that's not happening in bass fishing.
Could you imagine sitting down with a small tackle company and be like, listen, I'm in this for generational wealth. They're like, well.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Anyway, hey, if you don't at least get 6 figures
what do you
endorsements,
think? Here's a question for you.
For AOI or the Classic win, something's wrong.
6 figures in endorsements. What do you think right now, currently, in the sport of professional bass fishing, or activity of professional bass fishing, the largest incentive is in any contract? If angler Y wins the Bassmaster Classic, boom, this amount of money.
I have no idea. It would be a guess.
That's why I asked.
I do know this. I know some things from the past. So based upon what I know from the past, I'd say 50 grand.
What about Red Crest? They still have Red Crest, right? What, they get rid of the World Championship or?
No, they still have Red Crest.
They still have Red Crest?
Yeah.
What do you think it is on Red Crest? Because you've got a lot of those guys.
I think it's 50 grand too.
But you have a lot of those guys who kind of pioneered those mega contracts over on the BPT.
I still think 50 grand is the number. I think if somebody has a $100,000 clause in there, good for them. I think that would be great. But in looking back at some of the history that I know of and some of the people that I have contacted and had discussions about without naming names, I think 50,000 is the number. I really do.
Just a check if you win the Classic.
Yeah.
Boom, that kicks in.
And I think based upon that same premise, I think if they win an Elite Series event, it's 10 grand. If they win an MLF event, it's 10 grand.
For each. So they would have multiple sponsors that all have those. If incentives.
They were smart.
Right. So you could win the Classic and have a $10,000 incentive here, $5,000, $20,000, $50,000.
It's what I've been preaching for years, dude. If you're not putting that in your agreements when you sign deals, you need to step up to the plate and start doing that. Absolutely.
Should I have that in my contract with you for number of downloads? Like if
No.
we hit this number of downloads, this 6-figure bonus kicks in?
No, for one.
Incentive laden
based upon downloads.
BTL download contract.
Somebody said, are they bringing?
Yeah, they are bringing,
but only a couple or something.
Yeah, but then on the final day, everyone does it. I like it. I honestly think that if you wanted to shorten the weigh-ins, like you figure out who has what, and then the guys that caught him get more time.
Yeah.
Like weigh in the guys who you think are in the top 20.
Yeah. Hey, if you have that camera on you in the boat, you should get an incentive in your contract. That should be a line item in your agreement with whoever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's $100, $500, $5,000. It doesn't matter. That should be in there because that is a very, very important part of how you are representing the companies that you are representing while you're out there competing at the highest level.
Well, how do you go down then if you get a picture in the photo gallery, if you get an article written about you? I mean, how far down do you go down the wormhole on that? If you're on BTL?
Yeah.
You think it would be, hey, listen, I want to be valuable for you. I know in this business thing, it's the whiffum. It's what's in it for me. I'm going to make, I'm going to give you promise. So here's the deal. Instead of just paying me X amount and hoping that I give you the note or the publicity that you think you earn, how about we do very little up front? I'm banking on me. You're only paying for what you get. And then here's where the payment comes based on what I deliver to you.
100%.
So like a couple $100 for a BTL or this interview,
whatever the scale would
$50
be.
for this, and then it graduates on up to winning tournaments, magazine covers, live cameras in the boat, Bassmaster Classics, Angler of the Year.
I think that's part of the problem in professional sports, and we can dive into this in the marathon show that we do, but I will say this. When you have professional sports at any level and people sign fat contracts, bottom line, they get lazy. All right, why are you going to give somebody 20, 25, 30 million a season and they go out and they average 12 points and 6 rebounds a game.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys who have major contracts who continue to perform. You're going to look at the minority of guys who don't?
Hang on, man. I wasn't done. Right? If he is a top performer and wants to continue doing that, pay the dude $5 million a year. It's a pretty good salary. And say, look, if you go out and you average 20 and 10, there's a clause in your contract that says we're going to give you an extra $15 million that season.
Yeah, but then you got guys that are going to end up playing hurt. They're going to be pushed, and they're going to feel stressed to try to reach all that.
They're professional athletes, dude.
I know, but I think you put them in a best-case scenario where they're comfortable. They don't have to worry about it. They understand the job that's expected of them. $30 million is too much
to pay somebody to play basketball, bottom line.
It depends on what they're bringing in.
No,
it's just like it in the fishing deal.
I cannot wait for the marathon show, folks, because that is going to be part of it.
If they're bringing in $40,000 and they're getting paid $30,000, then
if you work for a company and that company makes in net revenue, let's say $2 billion,
right?
Should the guy that's working, that is the supervisor down in the warehouse, get that money?
It depends on how much he's responsible for.
No!
If the Lakers are worth an extra $500 million because LeBron's on them, then yeah. If you're that guy that's making it valuable.
Why do the owners always have to take the risk and there's no risk from the players? There is no risk. You're guaranteed $30 million. You're going to sit back and be fat and happy and have 12 houses and 30 cars.
Typically, though, the people who are worth that have a work ethic to become that valuable so they don't sit back and get fat and happy.
That has not been the case over the past 5 years. All right. Yes. Are there exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. Hey, I'm not saying that if you earn it, pay it. But why give this ridiculous amount of money up front when you haven't proved anything except what you have done?
Do you feel like there's a lot of anglers that are complacent? That have deals that aren't incentive laced, and they've got a 3-year deal, and they know, heck, I'm going to get paid this. It doesn't really matter if I make the cut here or not. There's nothing on the line.
I don't think that takes place in this sport. I don't.
I think there's guys who've gotten burned out that have done that.
That's different. That's burnout. That is not of lack of incentive driven by the amount of revenue that you can make. Earnings. All right. I think that's different. I think that's totally, you're in a situation where you're getting totally burned out because you've done it for years and years and years. Same thing over and over and over and over. All right. But I think if you have that contract in there where you are incentivized to perform, you're going to get more out of that individual. Look, there's not a human being. I'll look dead in the camera. There's not a human being out there that can't live on $1 million a year contract. Well, guess what? You go out, you hit 30 home runs. Hey, we're going to give you another $10 million. It's ridiculous crazy? What's being paid. That's why I don't even. I cannot wait for the marathon show.
4 Bassmaster Classics in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Reynolds, he finished 8th, 12th, 35th, and 27th. Great. Three of them top half, 2 top 12 finishes. He made $47,000.
Who's that?
Jeff Reynolds in his Bassmaster Classics, no entry fee.
Yeah.
In the 2013 BFL Regional on Texoma, he made 60. He made more in a 3-day BFL Regional on Texoma than he did in all 4 Bassmaster.
What was his career earnings? $500,000 on Bass? I bet it was around $500,000.
$432,000.
That was close. He had a solid Elite Series career, dude.
But I feel like he also has won a lot on FLW.
Yeah.
Or MLW.
Yeah. Look, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to move on. I'm not saying that these guys aren't worth what they make. I just think that contracts should be structured based upon performance.
You feel like Kevin Van Dam's being complacent now? Hasn't won in a while. Hasn't been on the final days very often.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Think he wins this one?
He might.
It looks like he's going to make it.
He might.
Jordan Lee.
Yeah. That would be a great
Kevin
conversation. Hey, we're going to have that on the marathon. I want to hear what the fans have to say about that. Am I out on the island? Or, hey, you're seeing it, man. People aren't watching baseball like they used to. They're not going to the games. Yeah, there's certain pockets of the country where people are attending baseball games. The NBA ratings are down dramatically. It is what it is. But you know what? From a bass fishing perspective, dude, I think records will be broken this week in DFW.
Attendance-wise.
Yeah.
Do you even have a heart rate monitor?
No. Blood pressure, yeah. You know, I went to the neurologist for my final
Is that
checkup
when you
on the
butt dialed me 3 times?
Yeah.
I was wondering what the heck it would be like. I'm driving home and it would be like, Mark Jeffries, calls end. And I'd call him back and then he'd ignore my call. I'd call him back and I'd be like, dude, what's up? And then 20 minutes later, call end. Like, I don't know what happened, but you did it 3 different times.
Yeah. Yeah. Some interesting comments on the instant feedback. We will definitely get into that discussion at a later time. But folks, it's going to be a fantastic Bassmaster Classic in the DFW area. Looking forward to seeing some of the fans. We're going to be there Saturday in a couple of booths. We'll give you more info on that tomorrow.
Yep, there will be hats at the Bassmaster Classic. 100
That is a hot commodity right now, man.
100 of the BTL hats will be at the Bassmaster Classic when the expo opens at the Bass Tank booth, along with some buffs, some net gaiters, BTL net gaiters, and stickers. 250 of those, but only 100 hats. I think that's all she could get her hands on. So I can't like hold them or save them for people or stuff. So when they're gone, they're gone. So get in line, wait hours early for the doors to open, and then rush to the BTL merch at the Bass Tank booth. Jeffries and I will be there Saturday and Sunday, as well as the AFCO booth. That stuff will be out tomorrow, I guess, is when we'll kind of announce exactly where and when we will be. If you are not able to be at the Bassmaster Classic, no fears. We have 10 items that will be out. We are going to open the store up the week after the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
The hats will be available there, a couple of shirts, an AFCO item in that. So for those that missed out on the merch or want to grab some more, all new designs, new different stuff. We actually, it's not a jumping fish. It's not even like a bone fish. It's a classy fish. So people, when you walk around, you're like, oh, you're a bass player too? So it just kind of gives an idea, puts it into context that it's a Bass Talk Live.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, everybody out there, be safe. That's it. Odds show tomorrow. Classic odds. Make sure you join us, same time. That's it. We're out of here.